So this is all about if you're in business or an entrepreneur and you may qualify for R&D, or if you want to find out what R&D is, and basically it's a great way to get support for your business. So we are joined by Keith Trubshaw, who is an R&D expert and is the author of R&D Myth or Magic, which is a great read, but we're thankfully going to go through so many points today. So Keith, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. So where do we start? I think we start with a simple, what is R&D, and perhaps who could qualify for this, what type of people, because the type of people I connect to are business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and they're probably going to be thinking, I've never heard of R&D, I'm too busy, I don't think I'm going to qualify. So let's just cover off who should qualify for this.
Okay, R&D is a piece of legislation, or it's covered by a piece of legislation under the corporation tax sort of regime, in as much as it's only available for limited companies and PLCs. It's also available, as it happens, for non-profit organisations, provided that they would be liable for corporation tax if they made a profit. Then that's fine, they don't have to have made a profit. What it's not available for, sadly, is sole traders.
Okay.
It's only a corporate tax benefit. Most companies have done R&D even though they're not aware of it. And that's what the crux of the book was about, in a way.
It is, because it's really dispelling the myths, and because it's one of those things, anything to do with finance or accountants, and we're going to come on to these myths. So it's definitely worth watching. If you're a limited company and you are looking to either get some money back or to claim some money, it's worth watching this short interview. So you think that it's going to be technical and you're not going to qualify, or you've not done something to qualify for R&D. So what is R&D?
R&D, research and development. Research is when you look into different ways of making a better widget, if you like.
Okay.
Or different ways of running your systems that help you with the business. For instance, an easy example is most companies nowadays have a CRM system. Now, if you buy a CRM system out of the box, that doesn't attract an R&D grant. But most CRM systems, when we buy them out of the box, they don't work straight away. Not that there's anything wrong with the product, but we just don't know how to use them. So we have to, if you like, spend time and effort assimilating the CRM system into our business. That part would be classed as R&D. Likewise, anecdotally, there's more money paid out for development than there is for research. In as much as if you take, for instance, if you design a new product, so that's R&D for starters, but then you put it out there to your clients, to your best clients, and they give you feedback, or your staff come back with feedback saying, yes, but if we tweak this little bit, it would be better. So effectively what you're doing is you're developing a new product and making it better and better and better. That's development. So for every pound that you spend on that, and most of the rewards come from the labor input, but it can be consultancy, it can be materials that you've bought. But when you have situations that for instance, you've spent hours and hours and weeks and months on a particular project, and you've had to shelve it because of the fact that you just haven't got time to devote to it at the moment. All the time you've spent on that is R&D. One thing I'd like to just touch on is the official title for this kind of thing is Research and Development Tax Credits.
Yeah.
But that leads to some confusion in terms of tax credits are the kind of thing that people who are out of work, for instance, bless them, after claim, etc. It would be nicer if this was called tax rewards, because you don't have to have paid corporation tax in order to claim it.
Yeah.
Which is, and it can be a huge fillip for companies who are just starting out and things like that.
Well, exactly that. So anybody that's watching this may have watched my journey. So I've been creating a platform called Media Matchmaker. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from this virus, so forgive the coffee. And it's been in development now for a couple of years, and we did all of those things that you said. So initially I hired a developer to kind of work around WordPress and then created our own plugins and all that. So that was our first one. So we had a small claim that went through. Then I had a development company, an agency that actually did it all and did all the design. So we've been able to get a much bigger claim, and it's definitely down to who you work with as well. And we'll come on to that in a little bit. But it's been amazing for my business. Now I've still not got it to market, but I think I'm on my 4th year or 3rd year claim as well. So explain that to us as well in terms of, so for me, I thought R&D, and again, it was typically, I hadn't heard of it. And then now all of a sudden I hear lots of people talking about it, but there's still loads of businesses that don't know that it's there and available to them, especially the solopreneurs and entrepreneurs or the small limited companies. So I, investigated, and you can go back a couple of years, can't you, as well with your accounts. So if you've been putting all your time and effort into it, like you said, I'd outsource and hire professional services, my time that I'd put to it, physical money that I'd paid out as well for development work, I could claim all that back.
Yeah, it's the way that it works is you've already claimed it back against the costs against your tax anyway. But the HMRC will allow us to look at, or allow you to look at the costs that you spent, and if you like, put it through again in an enhanced way as a cost against the business. So therefore, that changes the amount of corporation tax that you paid, or it yields a cash sum, because you have a choice. You can either you either get your tax back or part of your tax back, or you can, if you haven't paid any tax, you can elect to carry it forward to next year, or you can take the cash. No prizes for guessing that most companies decide to take the cash.
Yeah, and it's actually a really easy system to do, because again, I think we're a bit nervous, and as business owners we haven't got the time. We're so busy building our business and working on our business, it's having the time, which is why there's great people like yourself. And trust me guys, I've worked now with, this is my 3rd person that I'm working with, so they do all offer different things, and the personal service and who you buy into, it's like anything in business, it's about having someone that understands your business, understands what your needs are, and looking at every single angle to see if they can maximize the claim. Is that right, Keith?
It is, yeah. You could come into my business, and so could hopefully the people who listen to this. Anybody in business can go into somebody else's business and see what they fail to see because they're too close. They can't see the wood for the trees, if you like.
Yeah.
And all that people like me do is go in with hopefully they go in with a different set of experienced eyes and extract from usually the managing director, but it might be some of his staff as well, from between their ears what they've forgotten they know, and that they've forgotten they've done.
Yeah.
And that there lies the gold, if you like, that they deserve the rewards for that. Because without innovation, we might as well all go home.
Absolutely. So tell us then, before we go into the myths that we say, what type of businesses, so I'm it's only me and my company. I outsource when I need to, but I've been developing something. So I've been developing something from a technical point of view, from an innovative point of view. So therefore I qualified. So what kind of sectors, because traditionally you would think it's engineering or manufacturing that actually done a widget, like you said right at the beginning, but it doesn't have to be. So what sectors would you say might be, is it like beauty? Is it, there is manufacturing, is it technology? What sectors should be listening to this?
I call myself sector agnostic because of the fact that we work in, I'll just throw a few out there. We've done motorsport because companies develop parts for cars and take them to track test days.
Yeah.
And it's highly technical. Lots of engineering companies, civil engineering companies, telecommunication companies, IT companies, definitely. I've worked with food companies, breweries, a taxi company, not one of my clients, but I know of a taxi company that claimed a substantial amount of money simply for the backup systems that they put in. Because even though your end product might be mundane, let's think, I'll think of an example. I haven't done one of these. Let's say you had a company that sells potatoes.
Yeah.
Now, potato is not exactly very technical, although, some people might say it is, a chemist. But you have behind that, to distribute all of these potatoes, you have a system, you have customer delivery systems, and everything comes into one place electronically, unlike the old days when you had myriad clerks doing it, etc. so that all of the backup systems for any company uses technology. And if it uses technology, it can attract an R&D claim. Not always, but it's worth it. It's worth finding out.
And this is a great thing with you. And obviously what we want to do here today is make sure people watch this video to see if they feel that they qualify. Then we'll get them to fill out the web form, just to add their details in, so we can just get an overview. And then we'd be quite happy to, if we felt at that point they would qualify, and we'll set the criteria out for you. So we're not going to make it difficult. We want to make it as easy as possible. Then you have a conversation. This is the difference with you, Keith, that you are willing. There's some R&D claims out there that won't really touch the small claims, but you love the small claims, don't you? Which is where your heart lies. And obviously the big claims are great, but for people like me, you'd be really supportive and you know, be able to open doors for us.
Yeah, I get because I run a small business for years, I get a buzz out of the small businesses. I've got to say, we don't necessarily want to do all small ones because we don't make any money out of them. However, I get a kick out of it because of the fact that I've sat in that chair and I know what it's like. And it's so lovely to introduce an idea to somebody that actually is going to put money on his desk instead of take money out of his hand, or her hand, forgive my expression. And the average claim, so they say, is about 30,000, which is very nice. But if you tell a tiny company that it's 30,000, that they'll run for the hills, because there's no way that they can conceive that they would be able to get 30,000 quid. So my average, or our average claim, is a bit less than that. We do substantial claims, but we don't thumb our nose at people who turn out to their claims only worth £1,000 or something like that. You know, it's still £1,000 to them, which if you're just starting out, that can be really useful.
Absolutely.
And we sometimes, if they're tiny, we may just sort of just give them a guiding push to say, look, just do that, it's fine. But what we don't want to do is to sort of say, no, go away, you're far too small and we're far too important, because we're not.
Yeah.
And it gives me a kick to actually be, let's face it, we're in business for ourselves, really, aren't we? And I'll tell you this, I meet, and I've been around for a long time, as you can tell, with the grey hair, but in this particular industry, in this particular trade that I do, I meet more geniuses every week who don't realise they're geniuses. Geniuses.
Right.
And that's such a thrill. And sometimes I'll sit in a business owner's office, and my jaw drops, I'm open mouth, and they think it's just everyday problems to them.
Yeah.
But they have solved something nobody else has thought of doing.
Yes.
Or, and this is important, a solution to a problem that they have found might be easily attainable if they go out and spend £50,000. But they haven't got £50,000.
Yeah.
So they've had to find, if you like, a Heath Robinson solution to actually solve the problem. But in solving it, that's an R&D claim. Yeah. Because it might have been available elsewhere, but not within their resources.
Yes.
So we deal with, as I say, we're sector agnostic and size agnostic.
So in terms of then, most people now, because more and more people are getting used to it, but there's still a massive percentage of businesses that just aren't claiming. What are the stats roughly now, Keith?
I've heard a couple of stories lately, but I think I don't go far away when I say, according to HMRC, they say that of all the companies that could legitimately claim R&D, 80% haven't.
Wow.
80%. You know, and a lot of it is because they don't have time, or they don't know it exists, etc., etc. But I mean, I can talk about that now if you like, about the time benefits.
Well, yeah, because we're moving on to it. So, you know, and what's the effect? Is there a deadline? How long is this money there for? Okay. How long, you know? Yes, tell us.
Okay, well, it came out of that thing that we're talking about, Brexit, so much. But they may stop it when we leave. At the moment, they haven't, and hopefully they won't, because the government realise that for every penny they spend on or they give out on R&D, where does the money go? It goes back into the business to grow the business. So, you know, it's money well spent. So assuming that it doesn't stop, hopefully it won't, Yeah. Sorry, what was your question? I've forgotten.
It was how long is the pot available? Exactly what you covered off, really. So, because there is this fear with the B word, with Brexit, how is it going to change? But at the moment, there's the funds are there, aren't they? If these videos up, it's obviously still eligible. We're all struggling this morning. It's still available, sorry. So for you to be able to apply for it.
Yeah. And then in terms of timescale, we can go back, or the client or anyone can go back 2 years. By 2 years, let's just make that clear. If, as we record this, it's early April, well, it's mid-April now, isn't it? Yeah. So if your year end is the 30th of April, yeah, and the date today is the 15th of April, yes it is, 15th of April 2019. If your year end is the 30th of April, you can go back and do 30th of April 2017 and 2000 of April 18. On the 1st of May, you will lose 2017.
Right.
No exceptions. Well, there's one, but that's highly technical and I won't go into that. But you can kiss goodbye to that claim if you don't get it in by the 30th.
So is it worth the people that are watching this, have never done a claim before, but it's not their year end for another 6 months, to have that conversation with us now?
Oh gosh, it's worth it if it's another 12 months because of the fact that then it's a much more smooth process, etc.
Yeah. And it just becomes so much easier, doesn't it? Because again, the thing is, we think as well as business owners, it's going to take us a lot of time to put this claim through, but actually it really doesn't, does it? I mean, for me, my accountant's been brilliant. They've worked hand in hand with my R&D guy. So do you do the same? What's the process and what have they got to give to you information-wise and time-wise?
Well, first of all, we don't seek to usurp their relationship with their existing accountants.
You don't seek to what, sorry?
Usurp. We don't want to steal their relationship.
No, absolutely. Great.
We represent them, or the client, only in matters of R&D. We have no right to talk about other taxation matters with the revenue, just R&D. So that's the first thing. The things that we ask the client for, apart from to be able to, it's a bit like a journalistic interview, to sort of assimilate what they've done so that we can create a report for that. But then we ask them things about their accounts, things where they've spent money, how much they've spent. There might be some backup evidence that we ask for, but nothing is too arduous. And normally speaking, if they have the information to hand, half an hour's work. Yeah. The interview can take a little longer, depending upon the complexity of it. And then in our case, not in the case of the industry as far as I know, but in our case, we do a lot of going backwards and forwards with them if we're not sure about something, just to make sure that we are entirely happy and they are entirely happy with what's going into HMRC in terms of its accuracy and honesty.
Yes.
Because, of course, what we don't want is we don't want our clients and we don't want ourselves to be looking over our shoulder thinking we've done something we shouldn't.
And what success rate do you have? How does that work?
Never failed yet.
Brilliant.
I set the modesty aside when I said that, No. Although, having said that, a little caveat to that, the most companies have never failed because of the fact that the revenue have, shall we say, being kind about this thing. But anecdotally, there's a few words going around saying they're going to look at it a lot closer, which is why you need to make sure that you are absolutely squeaky clean in the way that you do this, because this is free money. Why would you want to break the law?
Absolutely.
So there's an element to it that's creative, but it's an honest creativity. In as much as we draw out and say, well, are you aware that that's R&D?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's actually, it is, so it's just, I know it's semantics.
But on that point though, Keith, that's massive because, as I say, I've now had different experiences, so I can talk from the heart about this. My first R&D claim was horrendous because the person I dealt with made me feel like I should be so grateful to him. He couldn't hardly give me any time. It was a very small claim. I didn't really understand it, but I was, like you said, it made a difference to my business and I was grateful for it. I just thought, I've just got to put up and shut up. The second claim that I did, oh my gosh, the difference was unbelievable. The time they took to find out, you know what we've gone through, to understand what the business is all about, to understand, put the reports together. They couldn't, help me anymore. And we looked at kind of areas in my business that I didn't claim for previously, to the point we actually put, I think, a back claim through or something. We did something.
It's called a second sweep. You're allowed to do
that. Was it, yes. So, and again, I was so grateful for it, which is why, you know, my main business, as you guys are watching this, is media matchmaking, helping people grow their business through publicity. But I want to do this because I'm so passionate about it, and I'm working, you know, with Keith, and we're going to recommend that you use Keith services. And yes, you know, they have like an introducer small fee. It's not a lot, but let's talk about the fees. Let's just be really upfront. We're not paying you to do this for us, are we? You get a percentage of the success claim. So how does that work approximately? Okay. Because again, you know, a lot of businesses, cash flow, a lot of big businesses are watching this, will be grateful, and they have budgets allocated, you know, to that. But the small limited companies haven't, perhaps. So how does it work?
Okay. When in my years in industry, most people that ever came into my office held their hand out to shake my hand, but really they weren't doing that. They were holding their hand out and say, "Can you put your money where my mouth is, please?" And we do it a different way around. We put our money where our mouth is. If we find something, we charge. If we find nothing, there's no fee. So in other words, there is absolutely, and I say this, absolutely no risk to the client for just putting their toe in the water and saying, "Do you think you might have a claim? Can you come and see us? Let's have a chat."
And cash flow wise, there's no risk neither, is there? Because they're paying you once you all get paid together. So do you take the money and then you pay them less your commissions?
Normally speaking, the money comes into our client account. We pay the same day.
Yeah.
Back out to the client. There are exceptions where it may well be like I had one that happened on Friday. That is, they owed some money to the taxman, so the taxman simply said, "Okay, you don't owe us the money anymore." So in that case, we'll send them a bill. But we only charge when the client, if you like, assimilates the benefit. That is to say, when they actually receive the cash or the credit, so they don't have to pay the corporation tax amount. And if the corporation tax isn't payable until 3 months' time, then our fee isn't payable until 3 months' time.
Yeah.
So we make it so that there is no cash flow detriment.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, just to reassure people, the claims go through relatively quickly. So for me, my year end is February. And I literally, because I do my accounts as I go each month, I literally had my year end and my figures done by, I think it was the 5th of March with my accountant. So the claim went in by the middle of March, and any time now I'm waiting. So it's about, by the time you've done the interviews and you put the claim through, what's the time scales we're looking at?
Okay. This time of year, you might be slightly slower because they're busy at the moment. We've got quite a few in from March. And the fastest we've seen this year is 3 weeks.
Wow.
They were in Scotland, funnily enough. So who knows, maybe Scotland's quicker. And the slowest we've seen has been 12 weeks. That was one claim last year. So it's somewhere between there. But hopefully by the time it gets to HMRC, everything's all neatly packaged up, etc., etc. So we hope it's a slam dunk, and they simply say,
have a criteria that they're trying to reach as well, don't they? So once you submit the claim, they're trying to work to about 6 weeks.
That's what they say, yeah.
But there you go, it's give and take, but it's, okay, so let's go through some of these myths that's in your book, because it's absolutely brilliant. And it's just, it's so easy to read in the nicest complimentary way, because I need something that's easy to read. But, you know, there's a few myths in here about, we've covered off kind of the trial and error, that the perception is that we feel that you've got to be in a lab, you know, in a white coat and actually, you know, a creative
white coat.
Okay, so you have to be successful, your company, so you've got to be have been paying corporation tax qualified. You don't, no. A lot of companies that we deal with, you know, they're 2 or 3 man bands. They might turn over £1 million, but they're tiny, you know. Yeah.
But we spent all this money on this and this, and we're not really selling very much at the moment. Well, then have the cash. And it helps with the cash.
But also, Keith, let's look at it the other side, I think, and this is where there's a lot of people that will be watching this as well, that are aware of R&D, may have done it through their accountant or may have used somebody. I would still urge you to have a conversation with us if you feel you resonate with Keith. You know, and I've known Keith for quite a few years now. I know of him, and I've seen how he's helped people, and it is amazing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be having this interview and this conversation to recommend working with Keith. and the point is, like I've said, the difference with the right R&D tax specialist for you can make a massive difference. So is it, and this is the other thing I like about your business, Keith, and how you're working, and a lot of R&D companies are different. You're not locking people in, are you? You
No.
are saying to them, you know what, we'll work with you. If you like us, work with us the following year. Some R&D companies lock you in, as in you've got to work with us, you know, we'll help you, but you've got to sign up for the 2 years previous this year and the following 2 years or whatever.
It's 3 or 4
right
years going forward. The way that we work it is, that's the kind of contract that I wouldn't want to sign myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a hypocrite. So therefore, if you sign up with us, we'll go back 2 years if we can, because you might have missed a year. Yeah. We do the current year as well. But then if you don't like us, tell us. Otherwise, it's just rolls. What we don't want to tie people in, you know, and force them to work with us. We have to win your business, same as everybody else out there has to. If we don't win the business, we don't deserve the business.
Absolutely. And it's refreshing though, but Keith, because it's such a specialist area, and it is such a wonderful God-find, you know, and thank God to HMRC and the government for actually giving us something, because you know, we all hate paying tax, you know, so this is just a no-brainer for any business. But you know, you want to work with somebody that you know has got your best interest and who's going to work hard for every year that you do the claim.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'll work harder than the clients themselves do to get money for them. There's something wrong there. But there you go.
You keep doing that. It's not a problem at all. So another myth is we think we've got to go through our accountant, or we feel that our accountants do it. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say here, because I couldn't be accused of being nasty to accountants.
No, because accountants do a great job. It's like me. I'm not a PR agency, and I don't knock PR agencies. They do their great jobs. But you're specialist in what you do, aren't you?
Lawyers know this. It's you know, specialism is a specialist is a specialist. Now, some accountants have the big ones have a department that actually does it. But sadly, and I have to say this, too many accountants, not you, Mr. Accountant, if you're watching this, but too many accountants, because they don't understand it, saying, no, you don't do it, or they put in a perfunctory claim. I think there's something in the book about, we did a claim for a telecoms company, and they claimed £500, which got them 125 quid. And we found 68,000 that the accountant had missed, you know, which I'm not saying that happens in every case. And if you like, the little anecdote that I use is, the accountants know how to fill in the form. My job is to climb the tree and squeeze the lemon. It's a bit of a mixed metaphor, but the whole point is, but not to squeeze the lemon illegally. Yes. We just extract that information. And the other point is, if you don't have, this is my contention, this isn't necessarily the law, but this is my contention. If you simply fill in the form and you make a mistake and the revenue discover it, they'll come back to you in a couple of years' time when they discover the mistake and say, right, we want the money back and here's the penalty. Yeah. If you've completed the report that states chapter and verse in what you've claimed and why you're claiming it, providing that report is truthful, then you haven't got to look over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Even if they discover they shouldn't have paid it, it's still their mistake.
Yes.
So I'd say to anybody, use us, don't use us, your choice. However, make sure you back it up with a report. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd done the report, and you know, and make it, like you say, it comes back, we read it, make sure it's reflective, because they still don't, you know, I know my business better than anybody, of course I do, and what they'll do is help me see the gaps, if you like, which everybody's done, and enhance it. But I've still got to make sure I sign it off, go or no, that wasn't quite right, which is fantastic. So can you give us some examples, because it's just great to have real. I've given my example you just said about, you know, this. Have you got a few recent examples that you can share with us?
We work with accountants as well when they say, look, the client, I'm thinking of one specific example, the client had a bad experience with an R&D company, not us, I hasten to add, and was adamant that they wanted to keep all the claim for themselves. So they wanted their accountant to do it. And their accountant said, we're not capable of doing it. We don't care, we want you to do it. So what the accountant did was they basically white labelled it, and we worked not for the client but for the accountant to create the report, etc., etc. So that was an accountant who was honest enough to know that this wasn't their area of expertise, and that's happened sort of 2 or 3 times.
And that's a really good point as well, Keith. You know, we are going to be, you know, I'm connected to a lot of accountants, and this is going to be going quite wide, you know, and we're connecting to the media and to journalists with this. You may have your own network. You might be, you know, in a business community where you want to promote this to your community, and we can set up an interview with that, you know, because there's enough there for everybody. Like, as you know, what we want to do is make sure everyone is successful and put the claims through that qualify for the claims, don't we? So if you feel you have a community of business leaders, or you run a technology community or something like that, have a chat with us, because there's ways that, you know, if you can help your community, isn't that fantastic? And, you know, and we all benefits in small amounts along the way, then why would we not do that? You know, because
you can even be more cynical over it and say, look, it's a great way in to gain a client. If you suddenly tell a client, look, there's 30,000 quid there, that's not been available to you. Now you're going to let me be your accountant. Absolutely. You know, so it's just a great way in, because it's free money. It's money that never.
Okay, so again, then tell us a few examples then of, not maybe so much the traditional manufacturing or whatever. Tell us a few obscure kind of case studies, if you like, of what. I know you can't go into specific.
No, I have to be careful here.
Of course.
Okay, obscure case studies. Woo, now you've sprung one on me.
Well, just anybody that, you know, you feel, because we want to hear, and it's like we want to kind of just to see different examples, because some of us that are watching this interview, when I was new to it, I couldn't get my head around it. So.
Right. Okay. That's.
You're going blank now, aren't you? It's like when you ask, like, what's your name? Oh, I've forgotten.
Yeah. Well, behind me on the wall, I'd have to turn. I tell you, you can't see it, which is a good thing, because it's named a couple. Let me just look at a couple, and I'll give you some. Okay. How about pet food?
Okay.
Okay. This is a company that worked for a large, or at least the managing director worked for a large pet chain, and realised that pet food wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and nutritionally and health-wise, he decided that dogs deserve something better. So, in order to develop the business, they had to start to develop recipes, etc., and they used some students to help them, etc., to do the actual chopping up and the cooking, and they rented a trial kitchen before they opened a factory. It cost them 20,000 quid to rent the trial kitchen. They never heard of R&D, but all of that in developing the recipes and the methodology and satisfying all the safety and veterinary sort of criteria, that was R&D. So there's one. A civil engineering company that building sites are renowned as the most dangerous places, or amongst the most dangerous places to work. And there are certain aspects, and I have to be very careful what I say here that I don't disclose what this is. There are certain aspects whereby the workers, up until now, there was no alternative but for them to be exposed and reliant on the crane not giving way, etc., while they put their hands in things that were, so they're at risk of losing their lives or their arms. Yeah. And it was a simple item, but it took a long time to redevelop it. And once it was developed, in order to test it, they had to train people so that their welding was accredited to the highest enough standard to be able to pick up something that weighed 20 tons. Yeah, the weld had to be strong enough. And that was in order to build a prototype. So in order to build a prototype, they had to spend a lot of money to train the people to build the prototype. So all of that counted in that particular instance. It doesn't count every time, but it did in that instance. I mentioned motorsports. There is a company that we work with that develops for high-end cars. They want 1,000 horsepower out of, say, a Lamborghini, because the clients have got lots of money. I want 1,000 horsepower, you know. So they develop a way of doing it, take it around the test track, do some more work, then they have to work on the brakes and this, that, and the other, and they work on all of these things. But the end game is then to be able to offer that performance item in a box, shipped anywhere in the world, because that we've done all the development on it. Now that's, if you like, quite glamorous. But then there are other ones that, for instance, there was one of my clients in the Black Country developed, he does work for, I've got to be careful what I say here, pretty like this. He found a way in the food industry, for conveyors in the food industry, you can't have grease and things like that. But conveyors, if they're in a furnace or in an oven, yeah, can rapidly go rusty and he found a way of stopping bearings going rusty. Simple when you know how.
Yeah.
He stopped them. So they were self-cleaning. My battery's running low. Excuse me 1 second. I appear to have
technology, don't you just love it? This is shows we're live that we're doing this.
We're back on again there, Rich.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so he worked a way out of simply by experimenting with different metals, and then we have people who have they worked. Any engineers who listen to this know that with CNC machines, the operator goes there and he programs the machine. They centralized everything, but they got 14,000 programs to centralize. It took a long time.
Yeah.
And every one of them was trial and error. And the watchwords, making it more general, the watchwords that we look for are trial and error,
yeah,
blind alleys, and oh God, how do we get out of that?
Okay.
That problem. I often use different words to that, but basically. So those are the watchwords. But we do different cases every day, and that's what makes the job interesting. Really.
And like you've said as well, okay, there could be some businesses that have, and trust me, I only got to this stage. You try and create something and you just give up, and you think actually it's never going to work. So even if they've got to that stage and they've moved on to something else, they could still claim for that then, couldn't they?
We love to write about failures, slightly grey area really, failures. But in essence, if you haven't failed, you haven't been trying. Mm-hmm. You know, so I love to write about the failures because it demonstrates to the revenue when they read the report, this company actually is working hard, you know, to make things better, to make things easier. And some of the people we work with, you asked about examples, they change the world in tiny ways. But what's Britain known for? You know, the innovation, I think it's the innovation capital of the world. I still think it is. Yeah. You know, and some of my clients prove it every day to me.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of, you talked about innovation, that they're trying to create something. In terms of, let's just dive a bit deeper before we wrap this up. What are they claiming against? I mean, we've covered a little bit. So is it, you know, if they're outsourcing, maybe can they claim their salaries? Can they claim, you know, professional fees that they've outsourced to people like that have done the research and development? What can they claim against?
Okay, if in terms of salaries, yeah, that's usually the biggest single factor. But if let's say that you employ several people, and even just one person, that half of their time was spent on R&D. Now, I want to come back to that, if I may, in a moment, in terms of half of their time. But if half of their time was spent on R&D, in fact, I won't come back to it, I'll cover it now. That 50% or 40% or 30% is fairly nebulous. And I'm paraphrasing the revenue now. If the revenue was this, they might say, you're not quite right. This is my interpretation. They know that when you did this work, particularly in the early stages, you never heard of R&D, so you didn't do it in anticipation of having an R&D claim. Therefore, they will accept these are my words, your best honest estimate. Yeah. Rephrase that. Don't leave anything on the desk that you can honestly take, but don't take the pee.
Yeah.
Basically. So let's say that in an interview with us, we established that 50% of Julie Smith's time was spent on development of this project. That means to say that 50% of her salary, including national insurance and any pension contributions, we can put towards the R&D claim. If, however, Julie's husband was a consultant for the company, let's say he was an IT consultant. Now, as an IT consultant, it may well have been that he spent an equal amount of time, and let's say he charged, I don't know, 15,000 quid for his time. We can't claim all the 15,000. We can claim 65% of that. Yeah, because that's a hard and fast rule. And then if there's materials that have been bought, specific items towards the R&D, we claim for those as well. Some things you can't claim for, some things you can, but that's our job to sift through that to find that we don't miss anything. And a lot of our clients are saying, well, you know, it seems a lot. Well, you have to be comfortable with it. Push came to shove, you have to be careful. You have to be capable of standing up and saying, yeah, that is what we do. We do.
Genuinely, most businesses are developing to move forward and evolve, though, aren't they?
And if you're not, when you're closing, that's the point.
But it's true. But this is why you feel that really it's almost too good to be true, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. This is. I've used it before. This is free money, and it's free because you didn't know you could get it when you did the work. You'd have done the work anyway, so you might be rewarded for it. Yeah. And I find that quite miraculous that something is available, and it makes me want to bang the chair and say, look, just do it. This is free.
Well, this is what I get about PR, absolutely. And also the fact that you can go back and claim your previous years as well.
Yeah, that you've done anyway. And then moving forward, we've got clients that now say, right, are you ready to come and see us again? Because we want the next year's client. Oh, you've done they do their accounts quickly because they want the money, you know.
I was exactly the same, you know.
It's, I'm a lucky book, because I love what I do, because I know that we make a difference to companies, and that's why I get it.
Absolutely, and you really do, and that's the thing that people are going to be thinking now. So, you know, what we're going to do is, obviously we've done this interview, we'll put as more details down if we can in terms of the criteria, so you can fill out a form if you feel that you may qualify, because what we don't want to do is waste your time, waste Keith's time. You know, we're so grateful, because genuinely Keith wants to help, and you know, he can come out and see you, or we can do it over Zoom, however we do it. And he'll be able to say straight away if you feel they've got a claim. But we'll start with the web form that we're going to put up. So so you can give your details and an overview. And yes, there's some, you know, quite detailed that we're asking for, but it at least helps us make sure we can see if you qualify. And that's why we're asking for the information. But if you've been watching this and you think, I'm not sure, it's worth filling out the form, isn't it, just to see, and then we can have an overlook at it, or you can have an overlook at it, and then get in touch if you feel that you can help them.
Yeah, it costs. We don't claim to be a big business. I call it a boutique business. We have fewer clients and we look after them.
Yeah.
However, you know, we're only a phone call away, and a quick conversation can probably tell us, if we see the form, a quick conversation say, actually, nah. But most of the time, it's usually actually yes. You know, you've got.
And I think this is why we're sat here today. So I've worked now with 3 different R&D companies, and I'm sat here referring Keith because I feel and I can see and I know for a fact how he's helped businesses. And you know, we want people that are going to care for us and care for our business. You know, so Keith, that's why we're sat here today. So I genuinely, you know that anyone that you speak to, if you can, you will help them.
Thank you.
Have I missed anything off that people need to know before? You know, obviously they can get hold of the book, and I'll put a link to the book.
Okay. It's on Amazon as well.
Yeah. So I think we've covered most of it off, really. Anything we've missed, do you think?
Oh, probably loads, but we've done a long time, haven't we, really? It's, you know, I'm not a miracle worker, but this is the closest I've ever been to miracles as far as the revenue is concerned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and if we can help, great. We do it with a smile on our face, and if we can help make a difference, if we can help your company make a difference by making a difference to you, then happy days.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for your time, guys. I hope you found this informative. As I say, fill out the details if you feel that you might qualify, and we'll have a look at it. And then Keith will be in touch with you, and we can set up either a Zoom or come and see you. We'll work it out. But definitely, you know, consider it for your business. Thank you, Keith, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Bye.